Is there a player or two that you think can work under the current structure for the Lakers and you think would be realistic? And not players they have, players that they're trying to bring back in.
Sure. So I would say that, well, like, first of all, I just want to be clear, like, next year, it's like the second apron isn't, the Lakers don't want to get over it. It's like, if you're over it, all you have is minimums at that point. Mm-hmm. So the team that if you commit, you're committing to a team that not only can win this year, but is also like, okay, we can bring back the same crew, minor changes around the minimum guy here or whatever. But this is the team that not only wins this year, but wins next year.
We're rolling with it.
Right. And you've then traded all your picks because you only have 2. So 2 firsts, and maybe you trade 1, but 1 or 2 firsts. You have your 2 seconds, which would be good to have next year just because they're cheap. And it would help the team have flesh out 14 players for them to keep their seconds next year. So if you're keeping those seconds and you're trading the 2 firsts or 1 first, I would argue that the simplest answer, what they say is like Occam's razor, is like go with the simplest answer, is Walker Kessler. And I wouldn't have said that recently. I say it now because they've addressed their big wing. They have a hole arguably at guard. They clearly have an issue at big, which Rob Pelinka acknowledged at before media day, literally like, yeah, we need a big with more girth, more heft. And so what Walker Kessler does, I would say that I've talked to a lot of scouts with a lot of teams about Kessler, and he's polarizing. There's some who are like, yeah, no, he's not very good. I don't like him at all. And then there's some who are like, he's a great rim protector, and in the right situation, you're going to get more out of him than Utah gets. You look at if he's a great rim protector, why does Utah have the worst defense in the league? Well, you blame that on Walker Kessler, who's coming off the bench on a team with a bunch of kids. When I say kids, I mean players in the first, second, third year, and a team that is just out there trying to score and not trying to defend. And that's just not their identity. They're a rebuild. They've committed to the lottery and such. So let's assume that Walker Kessler is available. He only makes $3 million this year. He only makes about $5 million, a little bit under next year. So he financially fits really, really well into that puzzle that I mapped out. The problem is, in my opinion, is that Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck, who run the Jazz, and Zanuck is a sweet guy. I don't know that Ainge is a sweet guy, and I mean that with respect. He doesn't have a reputation. I don't know him well. I've talked to him a few times, but his reputation is not being a sweet guy. His reputation is being extremely difficult and competitive. And great Laker moment was Robert Horry throwing a towel in his face. If you're an old time Laker, follower, so he's not giving the Lakers Walker Kessler easily. And the goal, they also have the Lakers pick coming up, so they don't want to make the Lakers better in a couple of years, but at the same time, maybe they don't believe in Kessler, and that's why they're trading him. So if you did Kessler, you could do something as simple as Christian Wood, who is hurt. You're basically upgrading an injured, offensive-minded center who probably doesn't fit what the Lakers are trying to do, for a role-playing big who is as close to Ivica Zubac as the Lakers would get from one of the worst trades they ever made. He's not as good polished a scorer as Ivica, but closer to that. And you can argue that you put him next to AD at times as a starter, and at times he comes off the bench. And so there are, like, AD's best position is center. And a lot of scouts around the league are looking at, like, why do the Lakers want a center? AD should play center. Yeah, they need a backup, but, like, they don't need a starting center. So you mentioned the Cavs, how they can be a lot of different things. Like, They could play 2 bigs. They could play 1 big. They could play 2 guards who are trying to score. There's always one dynamic guard available because you could space out Garland and Mitchell. And then they have a bench and they have good size on the wing. And, like, they have Strus they have a bit of everything. And the Lakers don't have a bit of everything. And the one area that this would give them would, like, okay, let's go old school Lakers, 2020 old school, not old school, and go like Dwight, JaVale, double big with AD and have that option. They don't have that option. So that's one pathway. And then this is,
Can I ask you real quick before you get into the other one? What would that cost? I think that would be.
I think it's Wood in just salary. That's what's great from the Lakers' point of view, is like Kessler makes a hair less.
What about picks?
The picks are the challenge.
And I guess that's what, because when you said
Right.
Danny Ainge is difficult in this and
Right.
competitive, and of course, what kind of draft capital would they have to give up?
I think they're wanting one new first, and they're probably going to want the Lakers to unprotect the one that they already owe. The one that they already owe is top 5 protected, or top 4. Yeah, so like it's top 5 protected. So if the Lakers get 1, 2, 3, 4, they keep it. And like the odds of the Lakers by 27 being the worst team in 26, right? So it's not being the worst team in 27. It's
sure
this year, whatever, they're playoff team or borderline playoff team. Next year, does it all fall off, or do they last one more year? And from the Lakers' point of view, they probably feel like with this combination of players, they're good enough next year. So if you just remove that protection, it probably doesn't do anything. But for the Jazz, it's like, okay, probably doesn't do anything. But if LeBron, AD miss time and the team falls apart, this could be the top 4 pick. And so that's the risk. And then in addition to that, one of the other 2 firsts. In my mind, that's what Ainge would want. Obviously, I can't speak for him, but that's my interpretation. So let's say it's 2 firsts, but it's really only 1 first. It's 1 first and removal of the protection. The problem is the Lakers can't really protect that 29 first because they don't have any seconds. So I think the Lakers would try to get Utah to give them a second back in 29. And then the protection on that pick, let's see, does Utah has their 29. So the idea would be get the Utah second back, and then it's protection on so it would be top 4 for protected again. But then maybe the Jazz are saying, screw that, we're not giving you, we just want it unprotected. And then the Lakers have to choose, either you do it or you don't. And the thing is, the Jazz don't have to trade him. They don't trade him at all. He's not expiring. They can wait, do it at the draft.
Inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, in that battle of wills and Ainge being greedy, and I say that with respect, it'd probably be, an unprotected first, which if you ask a bunch of scouts, they're going to say that's crazy. And if you ask some scouts, they'll say, yeah, that's a good pick for the Lakers. They're trying to win right now. Who cares? Go get it. So there's no like, oh, this is definitely the answer. It's subjective.
Okay. Final one I'll ask you. And I appreciate how much time you've given us here. So I greatly appreciate you coming on. Based off of what we just said and some of the pressure with the Lakers and what other teams are going to be asking for, do you think by the time we get to February 6th, Pelinka has made another move for a big? Or do you think that there's going to be too many complications to that?
No, I think there's a move to be made, and I think some of it depends on JJ and how he wants to play. And I think maybe on the next 2-3 weeks of like, do they face these Jared Allen type problems like consistently, or was this just an outlier and they're fine and like they think that they have enough? I personally think at a minimum you have to look at a guy, an alternative to Kessler that probably is not as expensive. When I say not as expensive, it's probably like JHS, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and Wood. So 2 players that are not in the Lakers rotation, just to get to a little more salary. But it's only marginally. It's Nick Richards with the Hornets. He's a $5 million player this year. So that's just a tiny bit more than Kessler, but enough that it just doesn't work for Wood. And then next year, he has a $5 million non-guaranteed salary. So you have about the same money next year as Kessler, but then also you can get out of him. And let's say instead of giving up the first, you're giving up 2 seconds. The Lakers and Clippers this year, they're second this year. And the challenge there is that, the Hornets, they have potentially 3 seconds this year. So do they want 5 seconds this year? Probably not. So you might have to, find some other way. Maybe maybe it's a 3-team deal and someone else is getting involved with some second-round picks or something to help them out. But what that does get you is a backup. And Richards is like, yes, he can start if you want to start him next to AD, but the price is less expensive. He doesn't have that upside of Kessler, but he's absolutely serviceable. He's a more legit traditional big who can play in a role. So those are 2 pathways. One is more expensive than the other. And I think it's really, does JJ need someone who can start next to AD, or someone who can consistently start in Kessler, depending on matchups, who is young and a rookie scale player who, recent first round pick, who has a greater upside long term and could be whatever comes next, the long-term center for the next 5-6 years. I don't know that Richards is that. So it becomes a question of cost, I think, at that point, and then role. What JJ, if he's not going to play Kessler as a starter at all, you might as well at that point go with Richards and pay less. So I think this is what we'll find out over the next few weeks. And so I, can't bank on a trade. I never put money on like, this is going to happen. Sure. But I think the Lakers are aware of their weaknesses. I don't know
the timing.
Yeah, like they did this DFS deal with enough time to evaluate, like, is he your small ball center and you just play Rui and Dorian at center in small lineups over the course of games and never really go big? Because AD is kind of a small ball big, even though he's the biggest small ball big that the league has probably, except maybe Giannis. Him and Giannis can play that. So these are the kind of questions I think that the Lakers front office need to soul search on. And I think we made the case for it, but I don't know. I mean, what the actual outcome is, we'll have to wait and see.